Hi, welcome to LoanDisk. In this video, I will be showing you how to use the new accounting feature that we have just released. So first step is that you should go to Admin, top menu, and then go to Accounting and Settings. And there you need to select whether you are doing accrual accounting or cash accounting. Now with accrual accounting, we basically count the income that you have added into the system but not necessarily being paid. So for example, for loans, that would be installments that we would count as the income in the profit and loss. But if you select cash accounting, then we will only show the actual payments made by the borrowers. So the installments are not shown, the actual payments that they have made are shown. So you need to select which option you are using, and you can ask your accountant about this. And then at the bottom you need to select the start day and the start month of the financial year for all the branches. So you can just there's no need to select year. All you need to do is select day and month, and you can easily update everything below by clicking set default below. So it will change that. Of course, you can individually change things. Let's say these branches are in different countries, then you can also do this. So let's make everything July, and then let's click on submit. So that has been updated. The next step is that you should add your bank accounts. So you can see that I've added 3. Now you see that we're logged into the Laguna branch, and this bank account NAB is now we can access that in Laguna because we see Laguna, but Westpac will not be available in Laguna because we haven't selected that, whereas National Bank is. So you need to click add bank account, put your code. This will be automatically generated. I would suggest you leave this alone, but this actually shows in accounting and chart of accounts. So we have each account has a unique code. And then next you need to put the name of the bank account. Now the currency, you need to be careful. We assume that the currency of the bank account is the same as the currency of the branch. So you cannot have different currencies in the same branch. So a branch basically inherits the currency of the entire account. But you can override the currency and have a different currency for a branch. However, the bank account that you're adding, that you're using in a branch must have the same currency. So you need to be careful here. The next step is optional, but you can actually select, for example, if you want to automatically select this bank account when adding a payment for, let's say, a certain loan product. Let's say you want to add it, every time you're adding a payment for the student loan and Prosper loan product, maybe you want to automatically select this bank account, just to save time. So this is optional. And then the next is which branches you can access this bank account in. So you make sure you select your branch and click submit. So I already have the bank accounts here. So let's try adding a new loan. So we can go to add loan, and let's select the name. Let's select student loan, and let's put a principal amount of 100,000. Let's say released in the past, let's say 1st of October, and at 10% per month for 1 year, and let's say it's a monthly loan. Now at the bottom, when you're adding a loan, you will see this accounting section. So here you can select from which bank you disperse the funds. So we're talking about this principal amount of 100,000. So here you can select how you actually disperse the funds. Was it cash? Was it another bank account? Now this is only relevant if you select the loan status as open. Open means that the loan is open and you have dispersed the money. If you select as processing, we will ignore this because the loan hasn't been dispersed. Now I would still recommend that you select cash and bank even if it's for processing, because then when you move it to open, then you know where to disperse the funds from. So I would still recommend you do it, but we don't count that. So we only look at this if it's open or defaulted. If it's processing or denied or not taken up, then we ignore this cash in bank because it doesn't show in accounting or reports. So anyway, let's select National Bank. Let's assume we disperse these funds from the National Bank. We also need to select borrower. And we click submit. So here we can see the loan schedule. By the way, I'm using day, month, year, but you might be using month, day, year. You can of course change that in account settings in admin. So anyway, let's see how this affected our profit and loss. So I have another window here that I've opened. So let's go to accounting and profit and loss. Now remember, this is accrual based because that's what we selected before, and so this is automatically selected based on our settings. So here you can see that between these two dates, 1st of July and 16th of February, the interest on loans in the profit and loss is showing as 40,000. So this is coming from from the installments between these two dates. You can see between these, these 4 dates, it's 40,000. That's why it's showing 40. Even though we didn't get any payment, the paid is 0. If I change this to cash basis, this all becomes 0 because we haven't actually received anything. So that's the difference between these two methods. Let's try adding a payment so I can show you how cash basis looks like. Let's say the payment is for 50,000 and it's released, it's paid today. Now again, at the bottom in the accounting section, you will see that it's asking us from where did we receive the funds. And you see how National Bank is auto selected because in this bank account, when I added this, I said select this when I'm adding a payment for this loan product. That's why it's automatically selected. So to give you an example, if I go here and I click edit, you see how I have added repayment for student loan? That's why this was automatically selected. Now we click submit. Now this 50,000 that we just received, out of that 10,000 was principal, 40,000 was interest. Now let's look at the profit or loss. And now we are showing the 40,000. This is coming from this. The 40,000 out of the 50 was interest. And this principal, if we go to, let's say, the balance sheet, this is accrual based. Let's just look at cash basis first. You see how the gross loans principal is 90,000? Why? Because we released 100,000, right? So that was 100,000 minus the 10,000 we have received, so it's 90,000. If we look at accrual based, it's also 90,000. Why? Because if we go to loan, because it's basically saying 100,000 minus 10, so it's the same. Yes, so also you will see that the National Bank is showing a negative balance of 50,000. That is, obviously your balance will not be negative, and the reason it's showing negative is because we have not added any branch equity. In other words, the money that we gave to the branch. So let's add this. Let's add a branch equity. So let's say we gave the Laguna branch on, let's say, the 1st of August. We gave it, let's say we gave it $1 million, and we gave it into the National Bank for this branch. And we click submit. Now let's go back to a balance sheet. Now you see it's showing 950,000. Why? Because we gave it 1 million, but we released 100,000, so that should be 900. But we received a payment of 50, so that's 950. So 1 million minus 100,000 plus 50 equals 950,000 is the balance. And you see branch equity is $1 million, and this is net income for the current year. This is coming from the profit and loss. You remember before it was 40,000, so that's what's coming into from. And this is 0 because we don't have any previous entry, so that's why this is not showing anything, but this actually comes from the profit and loss for previous years. And we can see total assets is 1,040,000, and total liability plus equity is also 1,040,000, so these two will always be equal. And now all of these chart of accounts that you are seeing, gross loans, principal, branch, equity, and so on, and in profit and loss you are seeing, for example, interest on loans, we automatically create these for you in chart of accounts when you create the account on LoanDisk. So you can see that if I search for gross loan, it's there and it's locked. You cannot change this. Why? Because we are using this for journal entries when you're adding a loan or adding a payment. So you cannot change these entries. You see how if you see the lock sign, you cannot change them, and that's because we use them to make entries. But you can add your own chart of accounts in here, and this is only really useful if you plan on doing manual journal entries, which I will show you later on. But you can also view the ledger by clicking View Ledger. You would not use this for adding bank account, you would use this, but I will explain this in more detail later on. So now you must be thinking, well, okay, let's say if I go to add repayment, I have cash here, but it's possible your business maybe doesn't do any cash. It's all electronic transfers, and you handle you don't deal in any cash, and we want this option to disappear. So in that case, you can go to Admin, top menu, and Bank Accounts, and you can disable cash for certain branches by clicking here. And so for Laguna, let's say we select yes, so we are disabling the cash option for Laguna. And so if we go here and we refresh, you will see that cash is no longer there. And same if you try to add a loan. If I go to add loan, at the bottom you will see that cash is gone. So this is relevant if you don't deal in any cash, you don't want it to show there. Now these bank accounts will show everywhere. So for example, when you're adding payments in bulk, you will see this option here in accounting. You will also see this in upload repayment CSV file right here. Cash we're not seeing because I just disabled it. Let's enable cash, so you can see that there also. So now I have enabled cash. If I refresh, you see cash is showing here now. Same with other things. For example, let's say savings. Let's try adding a savings account. So let's say it's that, and then let's this is a savings product, and these are the savings fees. Now before I add this savings account, I want to show you the admin and savings fees. So when you're adding savings fees, so for example the opening fee, you can choose where this fee will be received. So here I've said that every time I get this fee, I will get it in National Bank. So we will automatically do a journal entry in National Bank. So with all the fees, you can select where you want to receive it. So for this withdrawal fee, I've selected NAB. That every time I get the withdrawal fee, I'll get it in NAB. So you can choose that. So let's click Submit for this. And you see how National Bank has been selected for opening because that's what I selected when I added the fee. Balance is minus 112, but let's do a transaction, a savings transaction. Let's do it before 1st of February. And let's say it's a deposit of, let's say 1,000. Again, we can choose how we received the funds. Did we get it in cash, NAB, National Bank? Let's select National Bank. So we received the funds in National Bank. And let's click Submit. So here you see that the balance is now 1,000 minus 12 minus 100 equals 888. And you can see that here. National Bank was there. Now this can also be selected in investors, and you can also select this in payroll when you're adding a payroll. So if I click Add Payroll, at the bottom I will see I can select from which bank I paid the funds. Same with Add Expense. You can, when you're adding an expense, you can choose from which bank you paid the funds. Same with other income, you can choose where you received the funds. Asset management is basically the option of adding an asset, not a bank account. So you would not add a bank account. But you can add your own types. And before I explain this, I want to explain one more thing actually. So let's say we go to add expense. You will notice we have all of these expense types. Now, when you can actually add your expense types here. Now, when you add a transaction, we will automatically create the chart of account and add the entry. So there's no need for you to actually even add chart of accounts for expenses, other income, or assets. We will automatically do it. Let me give you an example. Let's say we add 1,000 as accommodation on the 16th today, and we paid it from National Bank. This is just a custom field. So we received it in. We paid $1,000. If I go to accounting and profit and loss, you will see that accommodation is showing. We automatically created the accommodation chart of account for you. If I search, you will see that it's here. So there's no need for you to even use this feature really. You can just add it in expense and we will automatically do it. Same with other income. You can add other income. Let's say it's, I don't know, it could be, let's say, motor vehicle sale, let's say, and you received, let's say, 10,000 today, and you received it in National Bank. If I go to chart of accounts and I search for motor vehicle, you will see that we've automatically created it, and in profit and loss it is now also showing as a expense, sorry, as a revenue. This is a non-operating revenue, non-operating expense. So there's no actually need for you to do create chart of accounts. Same with asset management. You can add your categories, and then add it, and then we will automatically add the chart of account. So this feature is only really used for non-current assets. It's not used for bank accounts. Don't use this for bank accounts. For bank accounts, use the admin top menu and then bank accounts here. So this could be, you know, maybe some asset you're purchasing, computer equipment. You know, you can add your own computer equipment here. You know, for example, computer equipment. If I do refresh, it's computer equipment, and now you can select whether you which date you purchased it. Let's say we purchased this in 2022, February of 2022, 1st of February, and we purchased it for, let's say, 10,000, and we got the funds from National Bank. So this is how you can do the assets. Only select this option if you just want this for record keeping. We won't do any journal entry if you select this, because you're not selecting how you paid for it. So you need to select this if you want us to do journal entries. So yeah, and here you can depreciate the value. So maybe I bought it in 2022, but on 1st of February the value, instead of 10,000, is now worth 8,000. So there's 2,000 loss depreciation. And same you can add for future years and so on. Just click add row. And then maybe I sold it. Like maybe I sold it today for, let's say, 6,000, and I got the money in National Bank. So I bought it for 10,000 in 2022. I depreciated to 8,000 and I sold it for 6. So really I made a loss of 2,000 because it was worth 8 and I sold it for 6. Let's click submit. So if I go to my accounting and balance sheet, I will see that I have the assets here, and if you go to, let's say, the profit and loss, you will see that the depreciation is there of 2,000 that we lost because we depreciated by less than 2, and we had a loss of 2,000. Now that asset is not showing in the balance sheet because we sold it. That's why it's not showing. So if I go back to assets, let's say I didn't sell it. By the way, that loss of 2,000 was showing because 8 minus 6 is 2. But let's say I didn't sell it. And I click submit. And then I go to balance sheet. now here you will see that the asset is showing computer equipment 10,000, and the 2,000 depreciation is showing here. And if I go back to the balance sheet, the accumulated depreciation is also showing of 2,000. So that's how we're doing the journal entries. And of course the amount is deducted from National Bank, what you paid originally for the amount for the computer equipment. So let's go now to the cash flow. So you will see that the cash flow is at the moment, let me explain this to you first. So this is basically the receipts. You can do a date range search. This is the money you've received that's come in, the total receipts. This is the money that you have paid. So loan release, you remember we created a loan and we added some expenses. Total payments. This minus this equals this. This is my balance between these two dates. Before this date, the 1st of July 2022 is 10,000 minus balance as at 16th, which is today, is 950. If I go to my balance sheet, let's say, sorry, let's go to balance sheet. You'll see how this matches this 950. So all of your bank accounts and cash will and this total will match here. So all it's showing the cash flow is the composition of that balance, where it came from. Next I want to show you is the trial balance. Trial balance basically shows you the debit and the credit, and these two figures should always match. It's shown at a certain date. You can view it cash or accrual, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it still should match. Both the left and the right should match. And these are basically the balance. So in the assets, we always show debits, and same with expenses. For the other three, which is revenue, equity, and liability, we show in credits. And this is these are the expenses. So that's why we're showing it in debit. Now we have the general ledger summary. All this shows is basically a sum between these two dates of all the accounts which have some balance. So here you can see the debit and the credit and the balance. That's all it's showing. And so that's fairly simple. And then you can go to reconcile entries. Now it's possible you may have created your LoanDisk account before we released this feature. So you may have, so in that case we allocated everything to cash because you didn't have any bank accounts on LoanDisk. So here you can reconcile entries. You can bulk move entries from one to the other. So here we have loan amounts dispersed, loan repayments, and so on. To give you an example, so let's say, let's add some bulk repayments. Let's say, we add, it's just I'm showing you how to, let's say we allocate everything to cash, really, and we click submit. This is the same loan, and this will just add the payments fairly quickly, and the payments have been added. So if we go to reconcile entries, you will see that we have, for loan repayments, now we have 30 records because I just added 30. But let's say it's them that we didn't get it in cash, we actually got it in NAB account. So I can go to view and move entries. I can just select everything or some, and I can say, okay, let's move this to NAB account. So this is a really quick way of moving entries. So you might be thinking, well, okay, how do I upload my bank statements and reconcile? There's actually no need to do that, because you see, when you're adding things, when you're adding a loan, for example, you are telling us which bank account you use to pay the funds. Similarly, when you're adding a repayment, right, you are telling us where you got the funds from. But let's say you weren't telling us and we put everything in cash. It still doesn't matter because you can go to reconcile entries and reconcile very quickly all of these entries. And then you can go to your balance sheet and say, okay, my balance for National Bank is 950,000. Does that match with my actual statement in my bank account? If it doesn't, that means you forgot to maybe do some entry on the LoanDisk account. So, in the chart of accounts now, let's go there. You can add your own chart of accounts. This is only really should be used if you plan on doing manual journal entries. Or maybe you don't plan on using features like the payroll, expenses, and other income, and you want to do manual journal entries. Maybe you have some, some other thing that maybe you just do things differently, or whatever the reason, but you want to do manual entries. I would recommend you only do this if you have an experienced bookkeeper or accountant doing this. So you go to add chart of account. Don't use this if you're adding a bank account. This is not to be used for that. And don't use this if you're adding taxes, let's say. Expenses and other income, don't use it because you can use these features. Only use this for manual journal. So you can put your unique code, the name, the account type, what is it, revenue, expense, asset, liability, equity, what kind of activity is it, the cash flow, and which branches you can access it. The currency is the same as the branch currency, and then click submit. Once you've done this, you can then go to manual journal, and you can even do entries on other accounts. It doesn't have to be that one, and click add journal, for example. And let's say we've received some money, investment funds. Select this if you want to automatically fill this. Let's say it was cash basis, we got the funds. So some investor gave us money, so it would be an investor deposit. So let's say it's investor deposit, and we got, let's say he gave us 10,000, and we got this money in our National Bank. So this is debit because it's an asset. In assets we always put a positive in debit. This is liability, so for a positive it goes to credit. Now you see, both have to match, and so if I selected 1,000, it's saying, hey, this is not right. These two figures have to match. The left and the right have to match. If I put 10,000 and now it's matching, 10,000 equals 10,000. So debit has to equal credit. Select the date, let's say it's today's date, and click post. So here you can see the entry we've just made. Now if I go to balance sheet to see how this affected the balance sheet, we can see that we have now investor deposits in liabilities, and we also in the National Bank we got 10,000 more, and so it's 960,000. Now you will see this is showing an accrual and cash. If I select cash, it's also it should also show, and it's here, investor deposits. The reason is when we added the manual journal, we selected cash and accrual basis. If we had only selected accrual basis, it would only show an accrual based accounting. So the next step, the next thing you can do is you can actually go to admin and add your tax. And these taxes are used in expenses and other income. So let's say we go to taxes. So we can see that we have some sales taxes and purchase taxes. So these taxes will not be visible unless you select this branch, Laguna. So let's say I go to the GST and I select Laguna. So this will then be visible in other income because it's the sales tax. So I can, when you're adding a tax, you would put the name, whether it's purchase or sales. If it's purchase, it would show in expenses. Is it percentage based? Is a fixed amount. So you can put that here, and you can select if you want to round it off to certain decimal places. Select the branches and click submit. Now if I go to add other income, you can see at the bottom it's showing GST. So let's add GST. Let's make it 500, and let's say it's today, and then let's say it's National Bank. Now remember, this is this tax is included in this. So this is all inclusive of taxes. So this won't be 50 because it's not like it's on top of 500. This is including the 500 includes the tax. So it will be slightly less, like 45 point something, 445 or something. So if we click submit, we've added that, and let's go to accounting, and let's first go to our balance sheet, because this tax will now show as a liability which we have to pay to the government. So you see how it's showing 45.45 because it was inclusive of taxes. And if we go to our profit and loss, it should show the 454 in business income. So if I add that and the tax, I'll get 500. This is showing in revenue, of course. This was a sales tax, sales that we made. So that's how you can use taxes. You know, with the purchase taxes, it will show in expenses, and so you can test that out. Next thing I want to show you is when you're selecting bank accounts, it's possible you may want to show that here in this column. So you can click show hide columns, and then at the top here you will see bank account loan released. Put that on the right hand side, and you can move it up or down. Let's say we move it down and we click submit. So now we see that the bank account is showing. You can also do searches here at the top and select your bank account and click search, and it will show the bank account. Same, you know, with view repayments and so on. You can actually choose, you know, your bank accounts. So bank accounts, let me just remove all of this so it's easy to see. Click submit, and now I can see the bank account, how this payments were received. This was in National Bank, this was in NAB. And I can also do a advanced search. So I hope that this video has been useful. Thank you for watching.